GGRC.
Hey everybody and welcome. It's E3 2018 and here we are with our first trailer reaction for the year. I'm RC and of course my co-pilot, my co-host Sushi, joining me as always. The first trailer we're checking out is actually from the first press conference that we had today, which is the EA conference. They showed off a few games that I was excited about. Not a whole lot to be excited about, but one of them is Sea of Solitude. Now, Sea of Solitude seems like a pretty cool game, a pretty cool concept here. It actually really reminds me of a game that came out a few years ago. I've actually covered it on my channel. It's called Submerged. Now, basically what's happening is you play as this person who's in a boat, and the world is just completely overtaken by water. And in Submerged, you come across all kinds of wildlife, whales and birds and whatnot. And this one, it looks like you come across all kinds of demons and stuff. So it's almost like a very dark version of Submerged. So if you haven't played Submerged before, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's a cool, short little game. Hey, without further ado, let's check out the Sea of Solitude trailer.
Is this real? This world that I live in is empty and cold. The loneliness cuts me and tortures my soul. I'm no child of destiny and no fortune's son. I've just chased you so long now, I'm too weak to run. A new day is here, but nothing is new. Alone in my room, I tremble for you.
So after watching this trailer once again here, I have a new thought, which is it still feels like that game Submerged that we were just talking about, but it feels like that game coupled with the game Rime that came out last year. Now, Rime is a 3D platform, very colorful game, very similar to the look of this. Now, Rime is another game I've covered on my channel if you haven't seen it before. It's a cool little game where you traverse different areas, and some very bright, very nice areas, and some very dark, scary areas. I guess Sushi's had enough of Sea of Solitude, unfortunately. But yeah, Rime was actually a cool little game, and this actually reminds me a lot of it. So this scene, for instance, reminds me immediately of Submerged. You're just a girl in a boat, which is who you played as in that other game, and the whole town or city that you're in is just completely covered in water, and it's actually really colorful and beautiful. You would think that the sea would, have a much more of a lasting effect on the town, kind of like adding rot and gross things all over the place, barnacles and that kind of thing, but actually the town is very, very colorful. And of course, this is our dark character here. She's like a girl combined with like a critter, if you guys remember the old 80s horror movie Critters. And speaking of critters, here's a giant one. It's like almost like a version of her, just a lot bigger and a lot scarier, which I'm sure the underlying theme of this game is going to be her sort of running from some sort of, kind of herself, but like her depression or her dark thoughts or something like that. And this is kind of where the Rime comparisons come in, because in the scene that I showed previously where she's in the water, it looks nice and colorful and beautiful, and it has like a sort of a almost cel-shaded style colored look that Rime had, but also Rime had some very scary looking characters like this. Now, the scene that actually tipped it off to feel like Rime to me was actually this scene right here where the hands are coming up after her to grab the boat. There are scenes in Rime where you're running through and there are hands that come through and try to grab you, so it really reminded me of that. And of course, not to spoil anything for you guys, but there's a whole level in Rime where there's a bird chasing you. So seeing that there's a gigantic bird in this that might be chasing you in some way, I don't know. Maybe the games are connected? I have no idea. Now, it looks like there's going to be a little bit more interactive platforming than there was in Submerged. Submerged was pretty stiff when it came to climbing and platforming and that kind of thing. There were a lot of different places you could go, but there were only so many things you could do with your character. This looks a little bit more open-ended. It looks like she's jumping from, floating dumpster to another floating dumpster. But if she gets caught, she's going to get eaten by this, crazy critter demon thing in the water, so obviously we don't want that to happen. Now, one of the other things that I thought was quite lovely in this trailer was the fact that the water sort of parts, and the boat goes down, and you find a new area that you can actually run through. I thought that this scene was actually really, really well done in the trailer, and this scene alone, like, not that the rest of the trailer didn't do much for me, because it did, but this scene alone really made me think, like, wow, there might be like a whole nother area to this game without water that you get to explore that just really opens up. And we'll end on that shot there. I mean, Sea of Solitude, it's interesting because you have these really, really bright, beautiful landscapes and these like really stark and dark contrasting landscapes that I don't know if it's like a day and night cycle type of thing, but when it changes, and it changes in a really big way. You know, you have this beautiful washed out sea, and then all of a sudden the darkness comes. And that's why I think that like the underlying, you know, idea behind this, or the underlying theme, is going to be depression or something like that, because it's I've heard people say that depression feels like a wave that overtakes you, you know. So maybe that's the metaphor. I don't know. Maybe we're looking too far into it, but either way, this looks like a cool little game. Well, there you go, everybody. I have a ton of other E3 trailer reaction videos on the way. Please look forward to them, and I will see you next time on GGRC. GG, everybody.
GGRC.